record. So I always record them so that way you guys can go back and listen to them later.
Thank you.
Okay, I really just need not 5. Okay, that's interesting. That life doesn't have a shadow work card. The other 2 were like boom, boom, boom. Let's try this one. Not doing that many. So that's interesting right off the bat, because it tells me that this first life that's popping up is really affecting you really hardcore, but these other 2 are really tied together, because when the cards are flipping out over there, they land in the middle. So they're really tied together. Okay. Already kind of intrigued here by this first one. I'm like, just keep looking at him like. Have you ever had any past life readings or anything like that done?
No.
So I do mine just a little differently in that I kind of ask for the 3 that are affecting you the most right now.
Okay.
Because everybody has multiple. Thank you. Way too many decks and not enough space. Like half my desk is covered in card decks. I really need like a little stand.
Sounds like it.
This one's very easy. I jinxed myself. Okay. And that's why. Okay. Look, I don't need 5. I just need 1. Thank you. The correct answer would have been 1 or 2. So you. So you. I gotta move the piles, how they fell. There. So can you, like, if I were to send you a picture, can you look at a picture at the same time you're watching this?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna send you a picture of this here in just a second. Oh, I forgot there were 2 anchor cards. Okay. Well, that's interesting. Okay. I have T-Rex arms. Trying to make sure I got all the cards in the shop. Yeah, I did. Okay. So would you rather me send it to you over email or over like Facebook?
Facebook is fine.
Okay, cool. I think it'll let me. Because this one's pretty interesting. Yeah, let me, yeah. Okay. All right, so I sent that to you. So that's what I'm looking at right now.
Okay.
Okay, I see why this one's so different. So this is the one I was saying where the cards were really different, but the other two lives, it's like the cards were flopping out in the middle, telling me that those two were more attached than this one was.
Yeah.
So here's why. So time is not something linear like humans make it. It twists and turns and everything else. It folds. So this is a past life, but not, let's say that. It's a past life and then it showed up in a past life reading, but it actually hasn't happened yet and won't happen for a little while. I would say probably 4 or 5 going forward from the one you're in right now.
Okay.
This is kind of the one you're striving for. And the reason I say 4 or 5, well, actually it's 4 or 6. And it's up to you whether it's 4 or 6. This is the one you're striving for, like that you're trying to get to. This
Okay.
is like the last one. Seeing that resurrection card upside down right off the bat, I was like, oh, okay. And then at the very end, you have rebirth sideways. So I was like, all right, very interesting. You also have enlightenment, you have hidden shadow treasures, you have just reward. You have all these things that are done in this life. So this one is actually not here either. Are you familiar with star seeds and all those unique souls?
No.
So star seeds are souls that were not created here on Earth. They were created somewhere else. So they have a unique place in the galaxy where a lot of them have been kind of mapped as we've discovered different areas of the universe. So like Orions and Pleiadians and Andromedans and things like that. Your soul's created there and you live a lot of lives throughout that area. You come here basically for school to learn, unfortunately, most of the hard shit. So with this one being your last life, you go back to where you were created. It's like you come full circle, basically, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
you started here, you learned all your shit, and now you're like, okay, this is where I'm ending. So your soul's already made up its mind that this is where it's ending.
Okay.
You actually don't have a very old soul either. Your soul has a lot to accomplish in a short amount of time. So with this one in particular, man, what's funny is I keep hearing the word overachiever. Your soul is like the overachiever.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Like, and I have a feeling that I was supposed to tell you 4 to 6 and it's your decision. And I have a really strong suspicion that you'll do it in 4.
4 is my lucky number.
Mine too. That's funny. Yeah, there's several 4s in here. That's why I said 4. But I can't see a lot about this one. I just see like, you know, when you start a class and you get a syllabus and you have like all of the things on it, that's what I see, but every one of them has a check mark.
Oh,
So it's like, I don't see, okay, like here's where you were born. This has happened, this happened, then you die. I see like literally a checklist and you've checked everything off. So in this last life, the things you learn in this last life are like your senior year when you just get to kind of fuck off a little bit.
oh,
So you get access to the shadow treasures of yourself, of your soul. You get access to your own enlightenment. You get access to all the rewards that your soul has. It's like your soul ate all the bad stuff at dinner first and saved the good stuff for last.
sounds
So
about
in this
right.
life, you get all of the good stuff that you've put off, because our souls in every life get to choose. Like you have this list, like a syllabus. Here's all the stuff you have to go through, you have to accomplish, and so on. I think your soul started with the bad shit right off the bat and had all the bad things, and it's been getting a little bit easier and easier. So this last life is literally, it's not quite a vacation life. I think you've already taken your vacation life. This last one is you actually reaching enlightenment and you being finished with everything. So you can move on to wherever we go next.
Okay.
So this one will be a really good life for you. And it'll be one that you learn the rest of it. You learn everything else. The only thing that bothers me a little bit is that the beauty card, the beauty way card, which is that card right there, is a symbol for peace. And it's also a symbol for Buddhism and walking between both worlds. And the sweat lodge are both upside down. So it tells me you're kind of born with this enlightenment, which is not an easy thing to have happen. It's much easier to reach it, even though people think it's very hard. It's much easier on yourself physically to reach it and to like, you know, take the steps to get there instead of just being born with it. Because I have a feeling in this life, being born with it means that you're going to sacrifice a lot of yourself and your time and what normal souls would do in a life, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, you know, whatever's normal on that planet, but normal here, you know, like going to school, getting a job, you know, those kind of things to survive. This one is completely different. It's like you're born with all this knowledge and everybody around you knows it. So it's immediately put to use. So it's going to be kind of a hard life, not the hardest one you've had, but kind of a hard life, because in having that enlightenment when you're born, you're pretty much in service to everybody else. So what are you eating? Sorry, my dog just came in and dropped a whole bunch of stuff and I'm like, what are you eating on my floor right now? So this one's going to be very interesting for you.
Okay.
Do you feel like you're running out of time?
Yeah, all the time.
So are you that person that has to do everything right now? Like you have a problem waiting on stuff? Okay. I can see that. I can totally see that. Are you okay? You gonna die? I can totally see that. That's interesting. So the fact that that one came out first tells me it's affecting you really hardcore right now, which also tells me that you're probably really diving into any spiritual, anything that you can wrap your brain around.
Yep.
So how long have you been walking a spiritual path?
Recently.
Okay.
Very recently.
So did you get shoved into it?
No.
Okay.
Well, it depends on what part of spirituality, like Christianity or that kind of spirituality I did.
Okay. Scoot this back a little bit. There we go. Here, I'm like, I need to scoot this back. And I'm like, you still have all this room over here, dummy. Like, you have all this room. Okay, so let me send you this one. There we go. Sent you that one. So this is the second one I'm looking at. And this one was actually your life right before this, the one you're in now. So this was your previous life. What's funny about this one is your mother couldn't remember the year you were born.
Wow.
It's funny that that's significant. So there was a 2-year span. There was some reason that she couldn't remember if you were born in 1827 or 1829. And 9 is a very significant number. So is 7 in this life. Okay. So nine is important because it's 3 threes and 3 is perfect balance. So this life here, so you were born a woman and you were actually born here in the US. This is completely different than your life now, like night and day different. Because in this life, the family that you were born to, they were very nomadic. Your father was what people would have called like a snake oil salesman. But the thing is, the stuff that he sold actually worked because your mom made it. Your mom made it, didn't want to be around people. Most people thought she was crazy. She would have fit in now spiritually. She would have fit in now. So she was born way, way out of time.
Okay.
Okay. So she was born, her soul is of like gypsy lineage. And that's not really the right word because it's not Romanian, it's more soul wise. Her soul is more, it's like every life she learns some unique, weird, forbidden knowledge. And then so it's like a cycle. So you're alive. And then when you die, you get like debriefed basically. And then when you're ready to become a spirit guide, you get briefed on the life you're fixing to help. Then you go through that life with that person. Then you get debriefed and then you you get to pick, okay, here's the things you have to still accomplish. I'll take this one. And then it's a cycle. So when she's in these debriefing cycles and so on, this knowledge that she gains, like she's sneaky. This knowledge that she gains, she makes sure she remembers it, which is very unique because most souls don't they'll wake up and remember as they go. She remembers it from the start.
Wow.
She's not in your life this time. She's not here this time around. You two are soul tied together. You got impatient and came early. So she's not here yet and she's debating on being here because she feels like now it's off. Does that make sense? Like your timing's off. So she's debating now, do I go ahead and come now or do I wait until the next time around? So part of it, not having her here this time, and it's not that she would have been your mom, she would have been like an aunt or a best friend or a sibling. Like it would have been something that it's not directly a parent.
Yeah.
But it's someone that would have guided you. And what's funny, she's not irritated about it or anything. She's just like, I see her rolling her eyes like, oh my God, like that's what I see. It's really funny. So with her in particular, and she's really unique. I would bet that she's been pushing you along and prodding you along. So I wouldn't be surprised if she is a spirit guide that comes in and out. She's not one that assigned herself to you whenever you were born, but she comes in and out. So there are times when something new excites you or whatever, and you just dive in head first into the deep end and engulf yourself in whatever it is you want to learn. That's her pushing you, especially when it comes to spiritual aspects. In this life in particular, she was not a very good mom. She was not very nurturing. She was not very loving. She was more, okay, do this, do this, do this, like teaching you stuff. It's not that she didn't love you. She just wasn't, she's just not a nurturing, like what you would think a mom should be. She's just not nurturing. So she always made you feel exposed for being less than what she was, if that makes sense. Your dad, however, was very, very kind and very sweet and always including you and stuff. He let you sit out and help him sell these things and so on. But you wanted to please her. So you were always hunting for a way to make her happy, to please her, to show her you were good enough. And I think you still struggle with that now.
I do.
Even though you don't know why.
I definitely do.
So you can blame her. So you push yourself way too hard because you feel like you have to stand out. You have to prove why people should care about you. So the interesting thing about this life is, well, this card right here, it's upside down. So this is the 825 frequency, and it's for transformation and miracles. Being that it showed up as your healing card in this, I would totally be listening to that one, because it's not 825, it's 528. I was reading it backwards. I was like, wait, that's wrong. This is for transforming what you're trying to do right now. And when I say what you're trying to do right now, it's because it's like you're spinning your wheels and you're not getting where you want to be fast enough. So there's some blocks from this life in particular that are holding those back. Because in this life, you felt like every time you thought you learned something, you thought you would prove something to her, you thought, you know, like, oh, she's going to be proud of me for this. It's like she would yank the rug out from under your feet. Like, oh, okay, well, now you don't know this. So you're always hunting for something. You're always hunting for that knowledge still. And you had to try to balance that with not going too far. And I don't know why I heard it that way. Do you do that now? Have a problem with taking stuff too far? Okay, that's why I heard it that way. I was like, wait, that's weird. Why would I hear it that way?
I do.
So in this life, you don't ever get married. You don't ever have kids because you're chasing that being good enough for her. And so your dad ends up passing away when you're about 28, which sounds like that's young now, but back then he lived a pretty good life because he was in his mid 50s, late 50s. Hey, Doc, let's not do that, sir. After he passes away, that need to please your mom gets even worse, because now you're the one that sells, you're the one that does the things, you're the one that basically does everything like your dad did. And it really takes a toll on you to the point that you kind of turn on her a little bit. What sucks is that you only live to be about 31 in this life, because once you step into his role, you realize the toll it took on him. And not only are you in that role, but you're also in this role of like trying to please her and trying to learn all this stuff. So you kind of, your heart gives out. It's just, it's too much for that body to take. So I would absolutely advise listening to that 528 hertz. It will help you transform past a lot of this. It will help you move forward. It will help you. There's still some resentment here that you've got to let go of, because in never being good enough and never having someone that nurtured you like she should have, and never being enough, it caused you to basically work yourself to death at a very, very young age. And so that's still a block that you have to get past in this life. Do you have heart problems? Do you have heart problems that run in your family now?
I'm not sure. I'm actually not sure.
I would find out. And I would be really careful about working yourself too hard.
Okay.
So, because that popped up the way it popped up for a reason. But yeah, this frequency in particular is going to be a really good one for you to let go of some of the blockages from this. And I feel like some of them are self-imposed blockages in this life, probably from that, where you feel like you're not good enough.
Yeah.
So that will help you. That will help you tremendously. I just realized I put these cards on the wrong pile. Whoops. Shit. So what questions do you have about that one? Because that one was a little interesting.
I'm not sure if I do have any questions because everything makes sense so far. A lot of the problems that I have are those self-worth, feeling good enough. There's no reason for me to not feel good enough. No one has told me that I'm not ever. So I don't know why I've ever had it implanted in my mind that I'm worthless.
Yeah. Well, a lot of it was her. I mean, but like I said, she wasn't a normal mom, like what you would consider, even then, she wasn't a normal mom, you know, because I mean, I'm sure that moms were a lot harder then instead of being more nurturing or whatever like they are now. But with her, it was just so different. It was so unique and terrible at the same time, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, because I don't get the feeling that she ever like really hugged you or anything like that. Well, let's look at the last one. Those two are pretty interesting. Let's look at the last one.
Okay.
Oh yeah, this one you've got a couple of weird things going on. Now I gotta scoot all this down. I just heard somebody yell outside. It almost sounded like the song from Beetlejuice. Oh, that was funny. I like that song too. Now I'm gonna have to listen to it later.
Yep.
Okay. I may have to take two pictures of this one because I have T-Rex arms. Cool. So this one, there's two pictures of. Whew, you just can't pick easy lives to pop out here. I'm like, damn, that's a lot. So this one's an interesting life that you picked, and I heard it that way in particular. It's an interesting one that you picked because it starts off being really good, and then you lose everything, and then you have to learn to let go. You had to learn to lose everything in this life, because in this one you were born like this would have been your vacation life. And when I say vacation life, that's where everything's handed to you. You have more than you could ever want. So this one's back in the early 1600s, like 1630s. And this one's in England. So you were born a girl here too, and you were born to a family that they literally had everything. They had lots of money, they had land. I mean, you grew up very spoiled, very loved, very nurtured. And I don't mean spoiled in a bad way, but just your parents gave you whatever you wanted. In fact, your parents were very, very good people. That's interesting. I just paid attention to these cards here. There's like the mother of the homestead, and then Osiris, the God King. Like, your parents were very, very good people. I mean, they taught you guys to be very good people as well. So even though they had a lot, your dad had worked for it, and he always gave back to other people. So not only did they have a lot of money, but they were kind of philanthropists as well. So you had two sisters in this life. So there were three of you girls in this life. And you're the youngest. So up till the point you're about 16, 17, life is fabulous. Like, exactly everything you'd want, you had. And I'm trying to see what happens, because I know you lose your parents both at the same time, but I can't see what happens, like why you lose them, whether it's an accident or play. I can't see why you lose them, but you lose them both at the same time. So I'm assuming this is probably like an accident or something like that, because if it was like them being sick, you would have lost one and then the other, whatever, but this is like same time. So in losing them at the same time, even though your oldest sister is married, a lot of the people in this company that your father ran start swooping in to take money and basically to screw you girls over. And so people that were supposed to be helping you, operating in your best interest, scammed you guys, like literally scammed you. And then you have a hard time getting to trust people you don't know. Like, you have a really hard time with it.
Yeah, I do.
And even when you've known somebody for years and they prove things through their actions and so on, you still don't trust them all the way. Like, I can see why, because these were people that you had known your whole life that seemed to be good people your parents had over all the time, and they literally fucked you guys out of every bit of money you had, properties, money, everything, to the point that it drained all the magic from the world around you. It caused you to be very indecisive because you didn't know who you could trust, who you should trust. It also made you feel very disconnected because the oldest sister, her husband was a part of this. So they ended up with a lot of money and they ended up okay. But you and your sister in between you ended up just absolutely broke, devastated. And she just got married to be able to get back into that life. But it kind of left you in limbo because you didn't know what to do. You saw all the things that were wrong and you were trying to get these people caught for what they were doing. But the more you tried, this is what I'm saying, you had to learn to lose everything. The more you tried to hold on to that, and the more you tried to get back at them, the more you would lose. So the problem is, it got to the point where it kind of consumed you. That revenge kind of consumed you. You did finally end up just getting married to be supported again, but not until you were like 23, 24. And you married a guy that was a lot older than you, who you absolutely hated, but he had a lot of money. And what's funny is part of the reason you married him, he's also one of the people that screwed you over, and you felt that in marrying him, that was the best way that you could get back at him on a daily basis. So you would do all kinds of little bitty things to him all the time that would hurt him physically. So he ends up dying when you're only about 34, 35. And some of it is because of you, because you were experimenting with some things in his food and so on. This was your way of getting back at him. So because he had no problem reminding you that he had all your parents' money. Like, he was a dick. He was a dick. So he deserved everything you did. But your soul feels bad about that still, because it was not how you were raised. You ended up being just a widower and kind of becoming a recluse. You didn't really go out. You didn't, because even being married to him, you still would go out to parties and, you know, things like that, social events. So when he passed away, even though you were expected to go to these things, you just lessened it until you just stopped going, and then you stopped leaving the house. So you never have kids in this life either. Do you want kids? Do you have kids now? So the healing card on this one is the surrender card. So there's a lot of things that you have to let go of from this life that you're still kind of holding on to a little bit. Some of it is that trust issue. And some of it is acknowledging having everything and losing everything, because that's what the universe needed at that moment. But I think you still hold on to that it's not fair attitude in a way, and you don't know why.
Yeah.
So I see now why these last two lives really, really affected you, because they were hard. They were really hard. And they were ones that, it's not just hard physically, it's hard emotionally. And I mean, on your heart, to have a parent in one life, have parents that, you know, one parent that never nurtured you or anything, and then the other one to have parents that gave you everything and they were ripped away from you. And I mean, those are very hard emotionally, both of those lives. Do you have anxiety?
Bad.
I can see why. Like, I can see why, because even with things that happen in this life, you're still carrying a lot of this. See, this is a time when I hate being on Zoom and I can't just like give you a huge hug, because
Yeah.
because this is a lot. Your soul still carries a lot of this. So those frequencies, that frequency I mentioned, I would listen to all of them. I would listen to all 9 of the Solfeggio frequencies. There's a couple for letting go. There's a couple for And when I say letting go, it's like letting go of fear and guilt and so on. There's a couple for boosting your own self-esteem, for loving yourself, or so on, because these last two lives, I now see why that first life popped up the way it did, because it was very hard for me to get cards to draw for it with the decks I was using for these two. The cards would draw like that, but this one was like, no, I don't want that deck. Like, I don't want that deck. I need this deck. So I see why that one popped up first, because I think you needed to hear that one first. Like, okay, this is coming. So the things I'm doing and learning and going through now are for a reason. And then I see why these two popped up together, because they're still just crazily affecting you. So it is going to take a lot of inner work in dealing with some of these emotions that are still there, because I think a lot of them, you have no idea why they're there. Like you were saying, like, I've never had anybody tell me I'm not good enough, but I know I'm not, I feel like I'm not. Things like that. A lot of this anxiety and fear that this life put on you is going to be hard to let go of, because you held on to that. You held on to it for so long that it's kind of a part of your soul at this point. So that's one of the things that you have to let go of. And it's going to take a while. But I love that. In that first life, we talked about you being kind of an overachiever and having to do everything right now, because that tells me that you're like, okay, I got to do this. I'm going to do all of it. So it's going to take some shadow work. It's also going to take a lot of meditation. But the thing is, it's not just like the sit and quiet your mind meditation that it's going to take to get rid of these. What it's going to take, and get rid of them isn't the right word, isn't the right saying. Integrate them, I guess. Learn to accept them. This is going to take some of the meditations that you sleep to help you process past lives and so on. I wouldn't recommend doing a guided one. I would just do the ones that are just music, and you can play them during the day or whatever. Like, if you have something you do where your brain can kind of zone out, your body goes into like automatic, like, okay, this is how I do that. Like I draw or I'll drive and just let my brain kind of float a little bit. That's what helps me through a lot of that. So when I'm drawing, I'll play some of those frequencies or whatever. I also play them when I'm sleeping, because your brain is already kind of lowered a little bit. Instead of being focused on all the shit you have to do that day, your brain's like, okay, I'm going to sleep.
Yeah.
So it's a little more open to letting some of those things go. It's going to take a while for you to let go of some stuff, especially that last life that we just talked about, because that's a lot of bullshit. That's a lot of bullshit. So I'm glad I recorded this. I'm glad I recorded these, because I think you're going to have questions once you go back and listen and unpack it, because while I'm doing these, a lot of times you get caught on like one thing and you miss like the next 3 or 4 minutes that I was talking about, because your brain's like, oh my God, that's why I do blah, 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 blah. So I would advise going back and listening to this a few times. I would give it a couple of days and then go back and give it a couple of days and go, you know what I mean? Like, process little bits. I take my lunch at 2, so I'll get it uploaded. I'll get it uploaded then, so you can have it, and I'll send you a link through the site, so through your email, because you're gonna have questions on how to let go of some of this stuff. I would definitely advise making a list, like, as you listen to it, and add to that list each time.
Okay.
Because like right now you had certain big things that stuck in your head, and when you go back, there will be other big things and other big things. So make a list, because those are the things you're going to have to let go of as you go forward. If that makes sense.
Yes.
I feel like this was like a heavy reading right off the bat. Like, here's all this shit. damn, girl.
Yeah, this life isn't much better. So,
Oh, well, like I said, you're like, all right, let's get all this hard shit out of the way.
yep. I can tell that would be an issue for me.
I'm that way too. I'm like, let's just do the hard shit and get it over with. And then,
Yeah, that's exactly how I am.
Mhm.
Yeah.
If I'm
Thank
eating
you so
dinner
much,
and
though,
I like don't like something on my plate, I'll eat that first.
yeah, same.
So yeah, everybody else eats all the good shit. I'm like, no, I'm gonna eat the shit first, and then I'll eat the good shit, so I don't have the shit in my mouth.
Oh my goodness.
Well, I will get this uploaded for you,
Thank
and
you.
feel free to message with any questions or anything you have about
Okay.
it, because it's gonna take a little bit for you to get past some of that stuff.
Okay.
So
Thank you so much for everything.
you're welcome so much. See if
I
I can
really
figure out how to stop the recording. There we go. Because it takes a while for it to process.